And let's talk about it right now. We are AT&T. I'm Courtney with Cowboys Nation.
What is up? Welcome to another edition of Tag Nation. Your boy Mike Tag with Jimmy D. We got a good show for you today. Make sure, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. You don't want to miss any of this content. Like it, comment. If there's things you want to talk about, just kind of let us know. But it's not a big sports week. We've got some interesting stories that we'll definitely touch on. But we're probably going to sidetrack a little bit, get into some personal things and kind of let you into our lives a little bit more. So, Jimmy D,
Yes.
How you feeling, my brother?
I'm feeling pretty good, man. It was a good weekend. I venture to say that our producer over here isn't feeling as good as I am.
What happened? What happened to my man?
Well, he has 7 missing permanent teeth. I don't know what my wife was drinking or doing during pregnancy, but 7. So he had to have the 2 teeth pulled today because they got to do all sorts of crap in his mouth to eventually get this right. Now I'm going to be the one spending the money to get the implant.
Now, just to confirm, you didn't knock his teeth out one day when he was a young lad being disrespectful, did you?
No, a little, might have disjointed him a little bit, but I didn't knock him out.
Well, I tell you, it must run in the family because I remember when you got your teeth yanked out, you still did the show, gauze and all. You were on here. You didn't skip a beat. So I'm glad to see that toughness runs in the family.
Well, you see, we're dedicated to our viewers. I blood dripping out of my mouth, and I was changing gauze in the middle. If anybody wants to see that, you go back a few months. That was a fun
absolutely.
episode.
We had to pull a clip up for that one day, man. That's funny. That was a funny time. But yeah, so no, I mean, it was an easy weekend for me. Hung out with the family. My oldest brother was in town. My nephew had a baseball tournament at IMG Academy, so he did really good. Finished second.
Damn.
But he came up and we had my dad's birthday is actually tomorrow, so I'll give him an early happy birthday in case I forget. So we decided to have a party. The only problem was we all talked about it, and I think we all assumed that the other one told my dad about it, but he didn't know about the party. And he didn't find out till 1 o'clock the day of the party. And the only reason that he did find out is because he went down to see my nephew play. And then my brother mentioned, hey, what parties, we're going to your birthday parties after the games. Like, what are you talking about? So I can only imagine if he didn't make it, we'd all been hanging out at the house wondering where Pops is at. And he'd be sitting at home sleeping.
You say, your son told me, take it easy on Pops.
But the funny thing I was going to tell you, Joey, it's as old as we get, as things change, we progress in life. We still come back to the common denominator of just craziness and immaturity, I should say. That's the word I was looking for. So we're we're hanging out at the house. We got all the cousins and stuff hanging, and we got we had some friends over with their daughters. So you had a mixture of boys and girls, and Uncle Danny decides that he's going to pants my nephew in front of everyone. Got us right down to his ankles. Thank God he was wearing some Captain America underoos or whatever the hell he was wearing. But yeah, it was just funny. But we had a good time. It's always good hanging with family. But it's just funny because when you get together, you still do the juvenile things,
of course,
no matter what age you are. And I think that's what keeps you young. So just like when I do these hype videos, we do the promos, we act crazy. It's it's all about just having fun, man. You got to enjoy life.
Yeah, and it's funny you talk about shorts. And were you there that day at Sonny's barbecue when Danny got it?
Oh yeah, I was right behind him.
So we're in line at this barbecue joint down in South Florida, waiting to pay, and Danny's in front. And who was it? Me? I forgot who actually did it.
No, I think you.
I think I was the one who pulled the trigger. Yeah,
yeah. I think
so I grab it and I'm down to the ankles, right? And there's this old man standing there and turns at him and looks and he points and. Oh! So now half the place turns around.
The whole place is looking down.
Danny's turning all red. It's great. And I don't think he I don't think he cleaned himself that well on the backside that day. That was kind of nasty. But
Hey, I don't know nothing about any of that stuff.
well, that's
But no, it was good. So then we just chilled. We just, hung out at the pool and enjoyed the weather. It was hot. My son and I, we went on the lake for a little bit just to kind of get we have 2 wave runners just to kind of get them going. So it was a good time because we're going to try and, 4th of July week coming up. My son actually turns 18 that week, and we got so many birthdays in July. So we're going to Orlando for the weekend, and then we got some plans the following week to get the wave runner. So if you don't use them, the battery ends up getting screwed up. So even though if you don't want to take them out, you got to get them out as much as you can to keep that battery charged up. So
18. Damn, we're getting old, bro.
So just so we know, and if this does happen, I will get video footage. So he told me that he wants his shot at the old man. So just 30 seconds out, he thinks he could take me in 30 seconds. So I accepted the challenge, but I told him it's a good idea. But if he wants to do it, I got to teach the young man. Some people got to learn the hard way. Give him
exactly. Good luck.
A life lesson if he wants to challenge me. So if he does, it will be recorded for the world to see. So, but we'll see. I think he'll be smarter than that. He knows better.
Yeah, you think he'll probably think twice about that one?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I just remember my oldest brother. It's always in my mind. He did the same thing when he was 18. He wanted to take out Pops, and that didn't end too well. It was about 5 second fight, and then my mom had to rip him off. So,
hey, what about the time that I wrestled Louis?
Oh yeah, well, I got the footage of that. We had the 1, 2, 3 count. We got the footage. Louis said his shoulder was up, but we'll see. But anyway. Well, let's get to we got to mix some sports. We'll go back and forth. We got to mix in some sports. I'm living in Tampa. So, we'll start with the Stanley Cup. And this is where I got to lean on you, Jimmy, because you are the expert. Not New York. We're talking about hockey. Jumping ahead, my man. Dominic
that's the one.
Some medications or something.
Yes, but come on.
We had, Game 6. So let's go back to Game 5. Everyone thought, Tampa, that's going to be the end of it. There's no way that they're going to recover. They're in Colorado. Tampa pulls out the victory. So now they come to Tampa, and they jump out to an early lead. Colorado ties it. They scored 2 in the second period. They take the lead 2-1. Third period, it just looked like Tampa couldn't get any shots, couldn't get anything going. So, for the average viewer, and that's what I tell people. I'm not, when it comes to hockey, I'm no expert. So I lean on Jimmy, but I'll say there is nothing except football. I'll say in the playoffs, there's not too much better for me than watching hockey. I learned a lot in the excitement of the playoffs and everything that came with it. It was really cool to see. And I thank Jimmy for kind of telling me, hey man, you got to start watching this a little bit more. I don't know what the hell they're doing. I don't know what's going on with all the changes and all that kind of stuff, but it's exciting. It's fast paced, and it's more TV friendly than I used to think in the past, but it was great. So break it down for me. What went wrong with Tampa? They had that 3-peat. They were hyped up thinking they could get this home game and then maybe steal another one in Colorado. What was your take on it?
Well, and you talk about changes. Okay, so let's get back to that. The overtime goal when that punk ass Nadry scores in overtime in game 4. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I said, it was possibly too many men. John Cooper was pissed off, and rightfully so. And if you look at the picture, people are saying, well, both Tampa and Colorado had too many men.
That's what I heard. That was game 5, I think. That's what I heard. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that means they both get penalties called on them.
Yeah.
Right. Bottom line is that should have been a too many men. I think that goal should have been nullified. You don't know what's going to happen later, but I don't think that should have been a good goal. And I get why Cooper was pissed off in the press conference and didn't want to talk much about it. So we move on. Hey, first of all, let's say Vasilevsky, with the exception of game 2 when he got rolled, he killed it, man.
That's what I say. There was a conversation about it. So we're talking about it at lunch today. He had a solid series. Yeah, it's just he was ambushed. Is that what is that what you'd say? He just never. I mean, they were relentless with their shots.
Just shot. I mean, well, think about it. Last night he faced 30 shots and stopped 28. Game before that he stopped 35 and 37. And I mean, it's always consistently been well over 900, except for that game 2 where they got an ass kicking. But and you compare it to Colorado with Darcy Kemper. I mean, I'm not saying. I mean, he's not a bad goalie. He's a mediocre goalie, right?
Mhm.
So that's why I'm kind of surprised that the mediocrity in goal, ended up beating Vasilevsky, who was stellar in elimination games the last couple of years, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Is
so
it
last
is
night,
and how many attempts educate me in the Fed. So in an
Mhm.
average game, I mean, how many shots does a goalie typically face, or is it vary just so much?
It varies, but you 25, 30 is about right.
Okay.
And there was several games where it was well into the 30s that Colorado had that many shots on Tampa, and that's just not a recipe for success. Let's look at last night. Tampa starts with they have a power play, and they
Mhm.
look terrible on that first power play. They look like a monkey screwing a football out there on the first one, right? So, but Stamkos scores about a minute and a half later. Place is going nuts. You got the crowd on your side. You
Yeah.
got the momentum. And then it's like you said, it was kind of a similar theme as the other games where Colorado just turns it on late and they just are, full bore. And I'll tell you, I actually turned the volume off. I was listening to the Lightning broadcast last night. And I'll start out by saying this: Phil Esposito's the best. I swear he's sipping back on Grandpa's old cough medicine while he's announcing because he
He's
can
still
hear him.
doing that?
It sounds like he is. It was great.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, because he starts out, excited, and then he kind of gets slow, and then he's stammering his words by the end of the game and just making one word comment. He's great. I love it.
Yeah.
And you can hear him even in his voice, even as the game went on, and he might have been a little more inebriated, in my opinion. I mean, he was even you can tell in his voice what he was saying. He said, "Geez, we look sloppy. We look slow. We look like we don't want it." And he was right, but I don't think it was much that as Colorado just moving and moving and moving. That's what it was.
Well, and I think Tampa, I was, in the third period for most of the third period until they started to pull the goalie. And they had like one or two shots on goal that whole period,
It was
you know.
terrible. Yeah, it was a low.
And
Yeah,
it just, again, I'm a novice. From my opinion, it just seemed like Colorado was a better team. Another thing that made it interesting, and I guess you'd probably confirm it. Maybe it's a normal tradition. It kind of surprised me a little bit after. So when Colorado wins, they have the celebration. Tampa stays on the ice.
yeah.
And they're all shaking hands. And I mean, it was just it was a little different than you'd see in football or baseball or basketball. It's typically once once the game's over, the winning team kind of takes over everything and the losing team just kind of disperses out in the locker room. It's kind of, I don't know if it's great sportsmanship. It's got to be tough to sit there. I saw when the Lightning was starting to go to the, into the locker room, then you started seeing the kicking of the stuff and you started seeing the, things flying around. So I guess they really hold it in there. But I guess must be the tradition of hockey, and that's kind of where, and just to show a sportsmanship.
It is, and that's you got to give him credit because you can imagine that's got to be tough sitting there, especially in the Lightning's case where you won it 2 in a row, and honestly, I'm kind of surprised this didn't go 7. Despite how strong Colorado is. But get back to what you're saying, yeah, it's a great tradition, I think, and especially that makes you're sitting there eating crow or whatever, and that just sucks. That's got to suck.
Do you think it goes back way back in time, or is it kind of like when Rocky IV? Do you think Rocky IV kind of started that tradition where the loser sits there and then the other one talks about changing and all the positives?
I don't want to change.
I was seeing how long I can say it's better than a million. I was seeing how long I could say
It's
on
better.
Drago, but
oh gosh. So yeah, actually you're pretty close. But no, it's been going on for a while, and it is a great tradition. I'll tell you, I can't believe as far as actually during the celebration. I don't know if you saw when they took the group photo, one of the guys on, and I forget who it was, one of the Colorado players kind of stammered a little bit and dropped the cup.
Oh.
And did a little bit of damage to it, which it happens every year. Usually,
that's probably not uncommon, I would imagine. It's pretty cool how they carry it around. I'm sure it gets knocked around. I'm sure that Stanley Cup has some stories if it could ever talk.
Oh, well, I mean, when Ovechkin won, when Washington won a few years ago, he was running around Vegas getting bombed all night long and drinking. It's been damaged in the past. You usually don't see that on the ice, though, right after a game. But now there's stories of the Stanley Cup when it was just a cup getting drop kicked into the Rideau Canal and getting lost and all sorts of crazy stories. But it is pretty cool because, like you said, imagine if that thing can tell stories.
Oh yeah.
But the big thing with this series, I'm stunned at what a big difference it was when Nazem Kadri came back from injury, and he played really well. And I have to say that might have changed the series in the end. And I don't like the guy; he's a cheap shot artist, but it is what it is.
Well, I don't know who the hell you're talking about, but I got to believe you. The one thing I wanted to ask is, so near the end, the Lightning took a shot, hit the guy's skate. The skate fell off, so he couldn't get off.
Mm-hmm.
And the one guy was carrying him off, but then you could clearly see they must have did the line change. So they had a bunch of people on. Do they just kind of, I guess, look the other way because he didn't have a skate on and he's trying to hobble off? Or should that, if you're a stickler for the rules, should that have been a penalty as well?
It's puck possession. That's the thing. If there's clear possession of the puck, which in the case of that overtime goal, there was too many men while the goal was scored.
Okay.
That's a no-brainer. That's the difference.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
I got you.
Another thing last night, I saw Hogan on the Jumbotron. I don't know if you saw it. He's playing.
No.
He says he's pointing. I'm going to break in half. I'm like, yeah.
Well, I'm still trying to make out. People don't know. I mean, you can check it on social media and on it. Hogan has a little bar down in Clearwater, and he does karaoke on Mondays. One night, Ric Flair was there. I keep trying to say I got to get down there to partake in that event, but I guess he does it every Monday.
We got to do a remote from down there.
I know, maybe do a live broadcast. So, but yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So, well, it's a sad day for Tampa, but again, it's cool to see how the fans were. They applauded them. They were screaming Tampa Bay. I mean, you like to see that. There was a lot of civility within the arena. It looked like it was well done.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, on Colorado's side, they were tearing the city apart a little bit, but I guess that goes with it. I could probably say, hopefully it wouldn't happen, but if Dallas, when that time comes, we win the Super Bowl, I hope they don't tear down the city. I hope we have a great time and definitely party. But it happens. What are you going to do? But it was a great series for me. Again, not being a hockey guy, I noticed maybe we're starting to trend here. It was hockey. I think the viewers was 37% women, and then they had an increase or like 40% or 45% of the viewers or fans of hockey were under 50. So it seems like they're getting in more fans. The ratings were up a lot for them for the playoffs.
Huge,
and so maybe this is, hockey's kind of getting built up a little bit more into a better viewership and fan base.
Well, it gets back to, like I said, they had 2 lockouts inside of 7 years back in, 20 years ago. And that's when ESPN said, we're done. Right.
Yeah.
So and again, I don't watch ESPN too much, mostly for football.
Yeah.
But this year I started watching hockey again, and Turner Sports covering them. They got a lot more exposure. And the Stanley Cup final ratings were up 61%.
Yeah.
And it was on NBC's regular network last year. It wasn't on their what the hell network is that, on channel 4000 on your receiver. But
it was done right. I mean, it was very graphically was good. It was, like I said, typically what I've always heard with hockey, it's more of a in-person sport. And when I went to see it, I could see why. When you're there, it's fast, it's moving. You got your intermissions, but there's not a lot of breaks. Unlike, with football, there's a lot of, you got TV timeouts, you have this timeout, slow playing. It's very fast, and they always said it would. But for TV, I thought it played very well. Now the playoffs obviously have something to do with it. It makes it more intense, more exciting, and as a casual fan, you love. For me, I love anything playoffs. I watched the USFL playoffs for God's sakes, and there was 10 people in the stadium.
I tell you on a footnote, I feel worse for Corey Perry on Tampa because he lost 3 seasons in a row. Because he lost with Tampa Bay this year, he lost with Dallas season before.
Oh,
he's lost 3 in a row.
Wow, I didn't know that.
That's somebody you got to feel for.
Yeah.
So,
He's jinx. Get him off the team.
It's like Eddie Mush. You know what? The Lightning got mushed.
Yeah. So, but it was a good season. Tampa can't complain. I mean, shoot, what I would give to see the Cowboys to win back-to-back Super Bowls and go for a three-peat. I almost give my firstborn, but you can't complain if you're Tampa. So. Great season for Colorado. Yeah. Tip your hat to them. We'll move on a little bit to something that's we haven't really talked a lot about it, but with Deshaun Watson, it's coming out. The hearing for the NFL hearing is starting on Tuesday. He had 24 counts against him. He settled. They've settled on 20 of them.
Yeah,
the plaintiff settled with them. 4 of them are holding out. One of them, was actually the one woman who was featured on Real Sports when they did a whole thing on it, and she seemed pretty believable to me. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Now, I didn't read all the details, but it sounds like someone is suing the Houston Texans as being a facilitator to all the massages and setting them up at certain hotels in Houston and all that kind of stuff. So it just seems like the water's getting muddier and muddier. Rumor is a 1-year suspension. Is that enough? I don't know. Some are saying it could be indefinite with reviews each year. As a Cowboys fan, the sour subject always to us is the Zeke season where he got 6 games for a college thing that happened, which he was found innocent of on every level, from NFL's investigation to the authority the cops investigation. Everything found him to be innocent of that. It ended up being a girl he dated or whatever got upset because he went to a party with another girl, said she was going to get him back, and started this whole thing. That's at least what was brought out in all the affidavits and paperwork. So I can only go by what I see and read. So if you're going to give Zeke 6 games for that, God only knows what this guy's going to get. And then it just seems more and more come out. And then there's, if it does, there's talk of the Browns go after if the Texans get sued and that happens, the Browns could try and go back to Houston to sue them for, knowingly trading a player with all the stuff that they knew about. I don't know. The whole thing's a big mess. So I think he gets at least a year. I think he should get more. But what's your take?
You know what I say? I say, Cleveland, you got your quarterback. You knew what you were getting into. I say, let him suspend him. 20 of 24. You don't settle 20 of 24 without some shenanigans having occurred, okay? Now, in my opinion, I don't think that Cleveland, let's say that there is a long-term suspension. I don't think Cleveland has any recourse to go back to the Texans because, again, they knew what they were getting into. So I don't want to hear any of that nonsense. But like you said about Zeke, what I say about Calvin Ridley, we got a year for gambling. He wasn't even gambling against the Falcons. So especially in today's culture, he should be getting at least 2 seasons.
Yeah.
24. That's all I have to say. 24. Not 1 or 2. 1 or 2 is enough, but 24.
Yeah, so it's definitely there's a lot to this story. I mean, he's saying the right things about his innocence. I don't know. I wasn't there, but 66 massages by 66 different women or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It was over a 12-month period. It's one of the, does it pass the eye test? And that's where you sometimes I try, and whenever I look at these things and look at issues and look at stuff, does it sound right? Does it smell right? Does it seem reasonable? Does it seem this? And it just seems like something's not right. And I don't know what Cleveland's going to do, because then they got an upset Baker Mayfield on their hands that, if I'm him, I'm not playing for them. I'd rather sit out. That's just me and my pride. If I was Baker Mayfield, I mean, I think I've talked about it before. I mean, is he the greatest quarterback there? Probably not. But he made that franchise at least legitimate, got him a playoff win, got him something through all the years of terrible quarterbacks. So he brought some stability to the position. And I understand, hey, Watson's a good talent. Philly was in the sweepstakes. Atlanta was in the sweepstakes. All these teams are, they're all gunning for him. So, I mean, there's no doubt he's got talent, but it's just one of those things it's a team, and how that chemistry is, and it's the noise that they're going to deal with. This is not, even though he's suspended, it's not going away. Every time something bad happens, it's going to get brought. Well, if Deshaun Watson was here, it's never going to go away. And it was always, my thing, if you bring in players with red flags and troubles, is a juice worth the squeeze, because at the end of the day, it's your locker room, and that's, and it guaranteed money. I mean, it's a big investment, and if it goes south, it could be a rough time for Cleveland to try and recover from that.
And that's why I'm really happy that the Falcons had at least didn't get what they were looking for, because I knew you knew it was going to end up like this. I
Yeah.
mean, there was no doubt. I mean, our collateral damage was pissing off, Matty Ice, and that's yesterday's news. But that's why I want to know part of that, and that's why I wasn't shedding a tear when I threw the Falcons helmet across the room that episode. It had nothing to do with Deshaun Watson. It had more to do with pissing off our best quarterback in the history of the franchise.
Yeah. No doubt about it. So we'll see what happens. It should be swift. I mean, I don't know how much more they got. I mean, there's so much stuff out there, but I'm sure they're going to try and get a resolution to this quickly. Everything we're hearing is years. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens. We'll definitely keep you posted. So on to the next topic. So we're starting, I've done a series of review of the Cowboys, and position preview. You see, I'm getting ready for the cave. I got the other hand. I got to think about where I'm going. You got Parsons over there. He replaced Amari Cooper because we can't have people laying on the Cowboys in this cave. Got a reputation uphold. So I'm now ready. I've got everything set. Everything is ready to roll. Well, I know, Jimmy, you got nothing on there. We'll get you a couple wins, and then we'll send you something with them Falcons. Got to start with a banner, and then maybe we'll get a picture here.
Hey, at least I got my mug out tonight.
Or a coffee cup. There you go.
Exactly.
Going. So we're starting this. We're getting things going. So I've kind of focused on the offense first. Running back did a couple weeks ago. Wide receivers we did, last week. So now we're going to focus on the offensive line. And I've always said it, and Jimmy, whether you know the Cowboys or not, when you're talking about the position offensive line, I think we both kind of agree this is where it starts. If you don't have a solid offensive line, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And I think with Dallas, this is probably, one of the big question marks for the team. And it's not so much, I don't think, if our five guys are healthy, if Tyron Smith was healthy all year and Tyler Smith was, if he does what we think he'll do as a rookie, and Biotish at center, if he can take another step. Zach Martin's always going to be Zach Martin, so we don't worry about him. And Terrence Steele, if he can grow like he did last season, you feel pretty good about the five. The problem is, all right, you got an unknown rookie, at guard. You got, Tyron Smith, who hasn't played a full season in a very long time. So it's not a matter of, if he gets hurt, it's when he gets hurt, and how's the timing of the injury, and how long could it be out, and could they survive that? You're thinking you're always going to get about 13 to 14 games out of him. Zach Martin's not getting any younger, but he's still solid. I think he's going to be fine. Terrence Steele, he showed some flashes, and I thought he was solid. I think he was better than Lyle Collins, who they let go. So I think they've got a lot of belief in him, but he's still. He's not, not a superstar yet by any stretch. So, and Biotish was getting pushed back so much. Did he take that next step? So, if everything goes right, you feel pretty good. But the reality, this is where it all goes in Cowboys Nation's head, as you start thinking of all these question marks and all these things. And continuity at the offensive line is so important. And having those five guys healthy for as long as possible, that helps too. And we just haven't been able to see it. So, the backup situation that's where it gets a little squirrely, because you've got two rookies. You got an undrafted, rookie, and then you've also got a guy I think they drafted in the fourth round that are going to be unproven. And then you got Josh Ball, who pretty much didn't play all last season. Connor McGovern is kind of probably your veteran guard backup, and center, and they kind of mixed him in there, and he didn't play very well. So the backups are where I see all the questions and concerns, is if one of these guys go out up front, you're going to be in a little bit of trouble. Depth is a problem at the offensive line. And really, that's been, I don't want to say a luxury, but it's been a benefit to have last year when Lyle Collins is out. You got, Terrence Steele in, or if Tyron Smith gets hurt, you had Steele as a swing guy. So you did have that. You did have, Connor Williams, who wasn't great, but he was okay, gave up too many penalties. So all you guys complain about penalties. He's out of here. Send him down to South Florida and see what happens. Lyle Collins, same thing, had some issues, injuries, didn't come to camp prepared the year before, didn't play, had, hip surgery or whatever it was. So he's been in and out of the lineup. So they've gotten rid of two of their kind of inconsistent guys that didn't live up to the billing of what, not really Lyle Collins, because he was a undrafted player, but he would have been a first-round pick. But there was some stuff that came out in college. We don't need to get all of that kind of messed him up and scared people away from him. So that's the concern I have, Cowboys Nation, is that offensive line, because I know a lot of people hate on Zeke, and he didn't have his best year last year after the injury. Go look pre-injury and then go look post. I mean, he was doing very well in the early stages, and then obviously that knee injury really set him back. But the offensive line getting pushed back 2 yards every time, especially at the center and guard position with Connor Williams getting pushed around, that didn't help the situation. That's why Pollard I always thought was an option because of his speed to get outside and to be able to use him more. So hopefully the line's healthy. Hopefully they gel, they mesh. And Tyler Smith, so many Tylers, I get all confused, but Tyler Smith does what he needs to do to get that next level and be a legitimate guard for us, with hopefully grooming him to take over for Tyron Smith when he retires. It'll be interesting. But one of the funny things I saw with Tyron Smith is a lot of people are always, down on him, but he's a pretty affordable. So if you get 14 games out of him, he's very cap friendly because he signed his contract so long ago. He's actually a bargain. So as an outsider looking in, Jimmy, I went on a rant, for a long time. But, I mean, you don't have to get into specifics of players, but just the line itself, because, now you're seeing Philly. Philly is what they rate the number one offensive line. I think that has a lot to do with their good offensive line, but has a lot to do with their ability to put up a lot of rushing yards, especially with Jalen Hurts. So maybe it's a kind of a gray stat, because we didn't have no trouble beating the hell out of them twice and destroying Jalen Hurts and shutting down the run when we played them. So I don't know how great their line is, but I guess we'll see.
Well, I look at, we'll contrast the Falcons and the Cowboys. So Falcons technically are in a rebuild. Like I said, I'm hoping we win. I don't want to hear about rebuild. We just got to win. With the exception of Jake Matthews, the rest of our other 4 linemen, all 3 years of projected starters, 3 years or less experience, right? Now the Cowboys, on the other hand, they had issues with age and injury and other things. You guys are in a win now situation. And that's a problem. These guys got to grow fast.
Yeah.
They got to grow up real fast and make this happen. And that's the only crummy part for you guys.
And I think that's where Dallas, which concerns me with Lindstrom and Walzak, I'll mispronounce his name, but Walzako or whatever, the rookie they got from Nebraska, and then they got undrafted free agent Lindstrom, who they think might unseat, Biotish at center, which really gets me concerned, because I mean, if the undrafted guy they're thinking can unseat him, then that really makes me wonder how good the starter is. Because, I mean, you shouldn't technically in the line get beat up by an undrafted guy just right off the bat. Now, if he develops, Steele developed. Steele's been on the team for, 3 years or whatever it's been. So he's kind of developed into that position, into being an NFL player, even though he wasn't drafted. So that's going to be the thing. And I don't think they have a swing tackle they can rely on, to your point, is with injuries. And with that, I think they're going to be in trouble in that win now. You're really banking on some rookies, and that goes beyond the line. I mean, you talk about Jalen Tolbert at receiver. You're with Gallup out, they're banking on a rookie that's going to be able to step up in day one. He's going to have to contribute now. Now, I think he's got the skill set. I think he's got the ability to do it, but it's a lot to ask. It's a lot to ask a rookie to come in and do that, and fill in those shoes, because you got CD's going to be over there. You don't have Gallup. It's going to, the first few games without Gallup's going to be tricky, counting on these rookies. They really went all rookie in on the line, because we're talking about 3 rookies that more than likely are making this team that they're going to need contributions from at some point in the season, just with injuries and everything that goes with it, to make sure they're successful offensive line.
Well, and that's the thing. It gets back to, all right, so your receivers, you need the run game to set up the pass. We agreed on that for decades. Problem is, you need that offensive line, the cohesive unit, to make that run game happen.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it, and I don't know if you were the same, but when I was a kid, I was pissed when the Cowboys were drafting an offensive lineman or defensive lineman. I wanted the receiver. I wanted the running back. I wanted the cornerback. I wanted Flash.
You wanted Deion Sanders.
That's what we want. But as I understand football and you get older and you watch it more, and really, it's really that, that 5-on-5. I mean, defensive and offensive line, 5-on-4, I should say. That's where it's at. And, that's where the game's won, in the trenches. And that offensive line, they've got to be cohesive. They've got to be ready. Now, some can make the argument. You look at Cincinnati. Cincinnati didn't have a great offensive line, and they found a way to get to the Super Bowl. So, point taken. They didn't win, but they got there. So you do need a little bit more. But I think for the Cowboys, for what they do historically, I mean, you can go historically down the line. The one thing the Cowboys have always been known for is offensive line. Very, very few, even in them lean years, you had Flozell Adams at least. You had guys in there that could play, and of course in the 90s, you had the Great Wall, and then in the Romo era and early Dak, you had the Great Wall too. So they've always had linemen. In the 70s. I mean, just a plethora of linemen, Hall of Famers, and great linemen that they've had. So that's always been a staple with Dallas is an offensive line. And I think it's a strength now, but I think there's just a lot more question marks and concerns that if some of these guys go down, it could make for a tough time. And I think that's where Dak is, which they're talking about having him run more, having him have that option, look to run. He's not a running quarterback. I don't know if anyone's seen him run. He's not graceful in the way he runs. He's a big man. He's someone that you don't want to get hit by, but he's not a fast guy. But I think what he can do, and I think he was afraid. I don't want to say afraid, but he was hesitant to do it last year, maybe because of the injury or whatever the reason was. He had opportunity to get them 5-yard slide, get 8-yard slide, get that first down, move the chain. And I think that's something he needs to do more of this season. And that could help, kind of put a Band-Aid over a questionable offensive line is to be able to do that, extend some plays and get some quick first downs with your feet.
Hey, look, if you got to be worried about a quarterback who at least has a decent chance of running, you're going to have the defensive. You're going to have them second guessing. So I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
And if he's a big guy, like you said, he's not graceful running, but who cares? You're a big guy. You got an open lane. Take it for your.
Well, it's just some of these quarterbacks. I think what worries me, if you get a guy like Lamar Jackson, or you get these, Jalen Hurts to a point, you get some of these guys is. You can run, but just kind of be smart about it. Do you need to get hit to get an extra 2 yards?
That's stupid.
And that's something that I give, some of these guys who run a little bit, like Brady barely runs. I mean, he runs a little bit, but he runs smart, and then he'll get down. Get what you need, look at the marker, and then get down. Matt Ryan, in his time, he did that a lot.
Yes.
Where he ain't graceful at all, but
no,
I would watch him scramble out a little bit. He would get what he needs, got the first down, and just go down. You don't need to get 20 yards, get 15,
That's it. Right. Exactly. Hit. Right. So, and right. Don't be, trying to run people over, because that ain't going to go well. You're either going to get hurt or you're going to fumble. One of the two.
Yeah. There was one, I was watching an old NFL game. God, I wish I could remember who it was, but man, he was running, and it was against the Cowboys. It was NFL Network was showing old Cowboy games or something.
Yeah.
And this quarterback ran, and he just lowered his shoulder. He was right at the sideline. All he had to do was go out, but he decided he's going to lower his shoulder to get one extra yard. He got absolutely annihilated, and he was like, wobbling, back to the sideline. I don't think he ended up going back into play. And it's like, why? I mean, for what, a yard? Yeah. It's the same thing back in the day. Running backs, it used to be a badge of honor if you just lowered your shoulder.
Run people over.
Don't run out of bounds. Do all of that. It was almost like you weren't a man's man of running backs if you always ran out of bounds every time, instead of taking the contact. And I just think nowadays you've got to be smart. You can't take this pounding. These players and these athletes are just too big, fast, and strong. And there's no reason to take unnecessary punishment if you don't need to. Get what you can get. Live to play another down.
Players' career is short enough. They got to protect themselves. Yeah, you got to make that money. You don't want to be 5 years and out of the league because you got your ass kicked with stupid decisions.
Yeah. So that's the offensive line preview. Next week, We're going to break down the defensive line. Now you say, hey, you forgot about the quarterback. We're going to save the quarterback to the end. We all know who the quarterback is. We all
It's
know
not
what he
much
is.
of a breakdown.
There's not much to break down, so we'll save that to the end as a recap. But we'll talk about the defensive line next week. So stay tuned for all my Cowboys Nations fans. Make sure you stay tuned next week. We'll talk about it. So,
see, in Atlanta, I'm wondering. I'm hoping Mariota's playing, but the question is Ritter going to end up playing at some point in the season?
well, Mariota won't survive. He's never been healthy the whole
That's
season.
the issue.
That's
a
just to kind of
concern.
change that. So you're gonna, but I think you need to. If I'm an Atlanta Falcon fan, I know you want to rebuild. I want to see what that rookie's got at some point. Now I don't want to start him. I don't want him to start right away. But I think at some point in the season, you want to see what he's got. Maybe halfway through, unless of course if they're in contention. But if they're start to fall out of contention, I think you want to see what you got because the next draft class is going to be pretty good with quarterbacks, and probably the best one in my opinion is from the U. So you guys make sure you stay tuned and watch him, and we'll get into some college talk with him. But I think he's the real deal. So they've already got him projected in the first round. So I think for the Falcons, you want to see what you got because you don't have a big investment in him.
No,
no,
we don't. So
and if he shows something, now what you got is a quarterback with a low salary cap number that you can build around fast, and you can try and make something happen. I think that's where Dallas made the mistake with Dak is you had 4 years of a very friendly cap for a quarterback, and they missed their opportunity to really maximize that and load up almost what the Seahawks did with Russell Wilson on that rookie contract. They were able to get a lot, and now they drafted well too, but they got some pieces around them and made that run before they had to pay him.
Well, the problem with us is with the Falcons is what is our offensive scheme going to be? We have Kyle Pitts catching balls, but has the rookie Drake going to look? We don't have much other depth at receiver, so that's a totally different ballgame. That's a topic for another day.
But I tell you what, I'll leave it with the football is my man Ken Dorsey from the U. I didn't even realize he's the play caller for the Bills, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens there.
Really,
I wish him success, of course, being from the U, but I'm not a huge Bills fan, so I don't want to give him too much success. But we'll
taking all my tax money to build that stadium out in the cow pastures out in Orchard Park.
So the last topic that we were talking about, and I was sitting there going through some of the stuff because I think we've talked about it. We don't really talk. We BS and text and stuff to each other, but we don't really analyze the topics. And I'll be honest, some of the stuff is I think about it, on Sunday, or he'll text me and we go back and forth. But you didn't even text me about this. I was waiting on you to say, "Hey, Mike, we gotta, where's the love for the Yankee? We gotta get it." And then I look, it's like, man, I grew up a Mets fan. I don't watch baseball as much as I used to, but the '86 Mets, if you go in my spare room, that's the '86 Mets room. And I look at the standings and I see the Mets and the Yankees with the two best records, I think, in the league. If not, they're two of the best. Could we see a Subway Series again? And can maybe the Mets, do one over on the Yankees like the Yankees? I think they swept them that time. That was pissed me off. But what's your take on baseball with these Yankees? I know this weekend was tough. They got no hits, so that probably wasn't good to see. But where are we seeing these teams? Do you think they can hold steady?
In regards to the Mets, quick side note. Our producer, Mr. Producer, and I were out throwing baseball a couple of days ago, and we got on the Bill Buckner conversation. I said one of the biggest, guy was an all-star for several years, and that's all you remember about him.
That's
right?
sad, yeah.
Lenny
but
Dykstra.
I have the picture up with the ball going between his legs in that room. So
but the Yankees. Day. So the good part is we signed Judge. It was only a 1-year contract. So looking forward, we have him for another season and a half. You're right. We were no hit by 3 different pitchers. On Saturday. Actually, we went 52 batters in a row without getting a hit. But you know what? We split with Houston, right? And we just have. Even though he's letting Cole and Nestor go longer in games now, a lot of times we're doing the same thing the Astros did, where we'll roll 3 pitchers in a game, 4 pitchers in a game. We only have right now, I think on the roster, 5 extra positional players. All the rest are, we have our starters and relief pitchers, right? And so, look, at the end of the day, you got Judge, you got Rizzo is playing well. The Yankees just have Trevino that we got from the
Yeah.
Rangers. He's playing great. I knew at some point he'd end up in a more prominent role, and we're tough to beat, and I love it.
Yeah. So do you think the Mets, because here's the thing, as being when I was more of a Mets fan, again, I watch them on the internet, but I haven't really paid attention to a lot of games. But what I always remember with the Mets is they start and then they just they'd always fade away. They never could hang on. Seems like they're hanging on a little bit longer. Now there's a long way to go. I mean, we're not even to the All-Star break, but we're getting close. So, and it looks like, they got a decent lead in the division, not as much as the Yankees do, of course, but I mean, with their pitching staff, I mean, do you think it's something they can hold on to? Because that's all, I mean, to me, baseball, pitching is so vital if you're going to make a run.
It is. And the thing is, the Mets, they don't do this, pitcher, whatever you want to call it, where you're running 2, 3, 4 pitchers a game by design. Right?
Yeah.
It's a different ball game. I mean, the question is, Alonso. There's so many question marks with the Mets. The Yankees are dialed in. Right? Yeah. I know we split 2-4 at the after. We're in a tough division, right?
Well, I think almost every team is 500 or better.
Yes, exactly. So for us to be winning like we are, and then going down to, our road record's great. And people forget. We talk about Garrett Cole and the Yankees. We talk about Nestor. Jameson Taillon, he's the best pitcher we have, starter. So, and people don't want to talk about that. But the Mets, I don't know. I don't know if they have staying power.
What happened to the conversation we were supposed to have about that? I'm just kidding. As you guys are watching this, there's a lot of inside jokes from back in the day. So every now and then you'll see a tirade. It's bringing back memories. That's all.
Yeah, it's Dominique Moceanu. So anyways, so I guess we'll see. It'll be pretty cool to have. Now the question is, obviously you're a Mets fan. For the general, generic baseball fan or casual fan, is that if you're out in LA, do you care if there's a Subway Series? I don't know how that works.
They care. I mean, I don't think they would.
No,
I think a lot of people don't like it. I think they don't like when it's regionalized. At least they say from the viewers. I think it's a good storyline. Like for me, but again, you're saying, well, being a Mets fan, that would be cool to me. But when I remember as a kid when it was the Giants and the A's,
earthquake,
and A's, Dodgers and A's were in the series. I mean, they were great matchups. You just love to watch it. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think it should matter. I always think it's great when you have two teams within a city because they're really fighting for that. Who's the big man on campus. Now we all know the Yankees are. I mean, you have to be,
of course,
an idiot not to know that. They've got all the tradition, they've got everything. But if the Mets, that magical year, I know, and it's so long ago in '86. I mean, they owned that town. I mean, they did.
They did. Even in what was it 88? We're back.
88,
91. They made
Dodgers. A run. That late '80s. But that '86 Mets team was just so. It was just. I watched the highlight every now and then. I'll pop in the old highlight thing, and then ESPN did a big story on that as well. So it was kind of good. But it was such. I mean, just a wild. It's like a frat party, man.
I wonder if they did an investigation on that clubhouse.
Oh God! Oh, it was crazy.
I met John Franco once at the Baseball Hall of Fame, and I was talking to the nicest guy in the world. We were just BSing, and I said, are those stories real? And he said, "Oh yeah." He says, "No, I'm not talking." It's pretty cool. Like I don't blame him.
Yeah. Now all those Mets teams and all those anywhere in New York. I mean, they always have some crazy stories, no matter what era it is. So, but So last couple of things. These are off topics. I don't know if you've been paying attention much, but I saw that we have a boxing match coming up. Have you seen that?
You mean the Jake Paul one?
No.
Which one?
No. We got Adrian Peterson
really?
is stepping into the ring to fight Le'Veon Bell.
What?
I have no idea. These are two guys that one took a lot of punishment being running backs, very successful running back. I mean, Adrian Peterson, Hall of Famer, I think hands down. Le'Veon Bell had a good career. I think he was headed towards that Hall of Fame. I don't think he gets in. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer now, but he made some money. I mean, both of them aren't hurting for money, I don't think, but I'm not their financial advisor. Why you would do that? I mean, Frank Gore's done it too. I just don't understand I just don't get it. I don't know. Now, maybe they're doing it for charity, but I don't know anyone who'd do this much for charity.
Bob Hope would.
That's true. Yeah. But besides him, I don't know anyone.
You know what? I tell you, you caught me off guard with that one, right? With the Adrian Peterson and Le'Veon Bell, because I got Mr. Producer over here hounding me to get tickets to go to the Garden to see Jake Paul. I don't know who he's fighting. I forgot. But
I tell you what. Now that Adrian Peterson's true. I did a joke, but that is true. That's happening. That is happening.
Oh no, I trust you.
Oh, okay. But
no.
I'm gonna do a solid for Dominic. My son went to see Jake Paul when he was in Tampa, or whichever Paul it was. I don't know which the hell one it was. He was what, 17 maybe at the time. It could be disappointing as a father for him to say this, but he told me that was one of his top 5 moments of his life.
Oh, thanks.
So I don't know if you should, you don't want to deprive your boy of that opportunity. So you might have to get rid of them alligator arms and dig into that pocket to get him a couple ducats.
Now you're making me feel guilty, more guilty than he is. It's funny when you talk about boxing. I remember you were the biggest boxing fan when we were kids. You knew everything. It's amazing nowadays, these unsanctioned boxing matches are the ones getting the most play. They're getting the most pay-per-view bucks.
Yeah, it's all about publicity and marketing, and social media is just taking everything by storm with these guys, and they just go ahead and can Jimmy D get a tighter shirt?
Hey, Danny, it's interesting. I'm wearing this, this shirt. It's not that tight, I don't think, but just before we went on the air, Danny, it was pretty interesting. Right behind the camera, your mom was tossing my salad. So, just
now, Jerry, my mom. I think my mom listens. That's it could be. So I don't know.
Danny's other mom. Inside joke again, guys. So, anyways,
no, that's funny. That's funny. But yeah, so I would. Danny got me distracted, but I would definitely. I would consider it. Now, Danny went and he took all the kids, and he said it was phenomenal. I mean, they all loved it. It was a great show. But yeah, to your point, social media has gotten this thing bigger. And to be honest, a lot of these fighters now, they're doing other stuff. They're playing basketball. They're playing football. It's just, most of boxing, it's all European now, and it's all lighter weights or where the better fights are. So it's definitely changed a lot. It's definitely not the Hagler, Hearns, Leonard, Durant, Tyson, Holmes, all those years of, Spinks, all those great fights we had in the 80s and 90s. It's just a lot different.
And you were so well versed, and you know what? I think you're throwing a few on the fire. I might have to open up the wallet and make some.
I think you should. I'm going to say you should. We came back. He did definitely for a kid. I mean, I didn't realize it was that big of a deal. So he was one of the top fighters.
Okay. Oh, so that's is that who Jake Paul's fighting against?
No, he's fighting Fury's brother, I think.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, and they don't like each other. So I guess, it'll make for some good drama. And, whenever you see fights, you always like to have some good drama. So I think it's definitely, you definitely want to have some of that. So it'll be good. But anyway, we're getting up against the clock. Anything else you have, Jimmy?
Yeah. 2 quick things. I'm going to gloss over them because I know we're up against the clock. First thing, I'm trying to figure out South Florida and how they handle the head coaching situations. So Flores had the Dolphins to one of the best records in recent memory. He's gone.
Yeah.
Andrew Burnett for the Panthers, Florida Panthers hockey team, who they had the best record in the league, and he took over from a train wreck of a situation when Quenneville got canned for some, stuff he was caught up in, a few years ago. They canned him. So I don't get it. Why would you can these guys for?
I think Flores, I think ownership, I think they wanted him to play ball a certain way with tanking games from what I saw. to secure themselves, top picks and this and that, and he wasn't having none of that. And I think unfortunately he fell victim to a lot of stuff that I'm sure there's a lot more behind the scenes that we don't know about that may come out someday. The Lightning, or not the Panthers. Again, I don't know them very well, but I would have to say that's ownership too. I don't know what you want. Now they lost to Tampa. Tampa, Tampa's a pretty damn good
Tampa's
team.
Damn good, yeah.
Yeah. Like they got bounced in the first round by the 8th seed. That was under 500 or something like that. They're a good team. So I don't know. But South Florida is just it's a different climate with their sports down there, and they do some odd things, and it's probably why they hadn't won in a long time.
Yeah, right. And the second thing, I just wanted to, and this is just more of a rant than anything. I'm sporting my Knicks shirt despite the woeful performance in the draft, and I'm telling you, Leon Rose and James Dolan, they need their asses out of there. A complete debacle of a draft. First of all, Kemba Walker, we don't have him anymore. They trade him to Detroit. They draft a guy, trade for a pick. It was just a complete mess. And Leon Rose comes on a couple days later saying he's clearing cap space and all. A complete disaster. All the Knicks fans were all pissed off, disappointed. It was just a mess. So this is me ranting a little bit. I couldn't, get over it. So they're talking about either going after Jalen Brunson with the money or Murray from the Spurs, giving up three first rounders that we got through the course of.
Well, they don't value first round picks in the NBA for much, do
no.
they? Unless you're a lottery. The one thing I'm glad you said something, because you talk about the Knicks and Stephen A. Smith, who I understand the shtick, I get it. He made a comparison. He said the Knicks, the Cowboys are the Knicks, the Knicks are the Cowboys as franchises. They're two of the same. So I'd ask you as a Knicks fan, would you subscribe to that? Do you think the Cowboys franchise and the Knicks are two of the same, or do you think one's worse than the other when it comes to success and both of them are what I think the parallel would be, both of them always have high expectations, big market, high tradition of success, and neither one's has won in a while. So as far as a Super Bowl, but I think Dallas is, they've had their opportunities of success. Yeah. I don't know where the Knicks are. So what's your take on that?
Well, it's funny. Stephen A. Smith, who I'm not a big fan of, but I was all about a lot of his takes on the Knicks and this past draft, last Thursday. But I think the only parallel really that I can draw, because think about it. The Knicks have had 2 winning seasons in the last 8 years. Okay. Mm-hmm. Whereas, the Cowboys, I think the only parallel you can make is the owners, right? Dolan, who's principal owner of the Knicks, he sticks his nose in where it doesn't belong. Thinks he knows personnel. I don't even like our general manager, Leon Rose, for that matter. But Dolan has his hand in that, and at the end of the day, I think that's a parallel.
Yeah,
the Cowboys have won. Right? Yeah. I know it's been a while. And we joke about it, and you've been to the playoffs more often. Yeah. You've had competitive teams. We've been, for the better part, since Isaiah Thomas destroyed the team in the early 2000s, we were a laughingstock.
Yeah. And that just doesn't make no sense, because, basketball is the one sport where it just takes a couple players. And New York has, who doesn't want to, Madison Square Garden.
Right.
New York's an iconic franchise in basketball. How they can't get, top guy. You see Brooklyn's able to get, top. Right. How the Knicks can't, recruit these top players to make a super team like Miami did with LeBron and Bosh and Wade. How the Knicks aren't able to do that. It's kind of surprising, because you could do, unlike baseball and some of these other ones, you can get good really fast in basketball.
Yes. Right, because it's smaller, group, right? Just look, get DeJounte Murray from the Spurs. The guy's young. He puts up almost a triple-double for his stats. And give up 2 picks. Don't give up 3. And I think that's where we start. The Nets, another story, because we're running out of time. The Nets ownership dropped the hammer today and said, Kyrie Irving, you're either going to take this deal or you're out. And I think that they pulled some of the leverage from Durant, and aren't going to allow him to call the shots that he thought that he's been calling, or they thought he was going to call.
Yeah,
that's today's Brooklyn Nets mess.
Hopefully they all figure it out. I mean, to me, it's just what I always say about, Miami Hurricane. College football is better when the Notre Dame, Miami Hurricanes, Florida State are good. NBA is better when the Knicks are good. NFL is better when Dallas is always in the mix because it just makes for good drama. You got the hate factor, you got everything else that goes with it, and it does make people can bitch and moan all they want. The baseball is better when the Yankees are in there. It just makes it for the casual fan. It brings in the casual fans. It brings in all the energy level goes up on the hate and everything else. So I see it. So anyway, we are going to check out, but I just wanted to do one last thing. I wasn't sure what the timing was, but and he's from our era, but Tony Siragusa, he passed away last week. So I just wanted to tell one little story, and it really, to me, it's him, and it was him in a nutshell. Is I told you, my brother and I, we used to always, we'd go to the hotels, meet players, and the Cowboys were here, and it was the year Jason Witten's rookie year, and so I stalked him down to the elevator, and I got a picture with him. I got a signed helmet. I had a big helmet. I was getting all these different players signed, and then in the lobby, Tony Romo was nothing but a camp quarterback, practice squad or whatever. And I just saw him standing there, and I'm like, man, I just want to get anyone I can get. So I had the helmet, and I said, hey, Mr. Romo, you can sign that. So I ended up with a helmet. I got Tony Romo and Jason Witten on the helmet. So that's pretty cool just by chance. And they both turned out to be pretty good players. But during that time, we were getting players outside, and, Tony Siragusa was with Fox, so he was there. And my brother was trying to get his autograph on helmet or football, whatever, because we knew he'd be there. And my brother's a Penn State fan. Now, I didn't know anything about where Siragusa went to college or anything like that, but he was standing there, and we were on the steps, and he was down below, and we were still looking at his chest. The dude's a monster, huge. And he looks down, and he goes, hey, man, he goes, what's that tattoo on your ankle? And he goes, oh, he goes, man, I'm a big Penn State fan. And he goes, I ain't signing your shit. And he walked away. And we thought he was joking. It was going to come back. He didn't. He's like, he goes, dude, I ain't signing your stuff. He's a Pitt alum. They hate Penn State. And he stood his ground. He said, I will not sign. It was just funny. But he was a great guy. Gone too soon, and it's just one of these other examples.
Another one,
just a great. I mean, in every story that I've heard of him, it's kind of like the same. So I just wanted to say that was our one time, meeting him. It was a classic that we still talk about today.
Yeah, and it's amazing how recently a lot of guys are passing away young, and it's just I mean, young. Wait, was he 40 something?
No, he was 50. He was 55, I think. That's way too young.
No, it's young. I thought he was
way
40.
too young. Way too young. So it's and that's where we always talk about it in serious. Is you got to enjoy life. All the madness that's on this world, and all this negativity, and all this craziness that just wants to divide everyone. Man, don't let it happen. Man, enjoy life. Life's too short. Enjoy yourself with your family, friends, and that's what it's about. So. I want to thank you guys for listening. We had a new time, so I know it's going to be a little adjustment. So those of you guys are catching on the replays on live, couldn't be live. We are going to be going live at 7. I think, Jimmy and I talked about it. I think the strategic part of it is we like Mondays as our flagship show, and with football around the corner, we're going to be doing a lot of the recap, and we want to tail into Monday Night Football. So we thought 7 o'clock Eastern would be a great start.
Yeah.
Right, Jimmy?
Absolutely. And one last thing I have to say, Mom T, if you're listening, I apologize for the use of my profanity.
She knows it. She knows you well enough, so ain't no worries. She's probably laughing too. So anyway, guys, unless something crazy happens, we got 4th of July, so we're going to have to figure something out maybe that week. But if you don't see us on Monday, which that's 4th of July, probably not, we'll probably be live Tuesday unless Jimmy is, if you're out of town, we'll figure something out. So until next week, you guys, I'll see you. I got to get ready to do a cameo. I'm doing a fantasy football draft as a cameo, so I got to get better at this stuff. Yes. So. They said,
get some cameos.
He said, make sure you rag on the Falcons and the Steelers. So I got to bring the ammo.
I don't want to see that one. Don't send me that.
Guys, we'll see you next week. Dominic, take us out. Peace.
beat down up and down the field. So now, why don't you guys pack it up? Get out of my stadium now that you just admitted that we're the greatest and stay out of my face.